Inkjet printers. By contrast to the thermal and impact printers, which use heat with or without a combination of pin impact on a page, on a piece of paper, inkjet uses little reservoirs of, well, black ink or colored ink, and a small nozzle literally sprays the ink on the page to create the final output. As far as the paper is concerned, you've got matte, which is flat paper. Normally white inkjet paper is optimized for receiving black ink for text printout. If you want to do full color prints, depending upon how high-end the inkjet printer is, you'll want to get special glossy paper such that the ink really pops and saturates. Inkjets give you pretty good resolution, really. For any consumer, inkjets are really all you need. You don't necessarily have to shell out for a laser. In a small office, home office environment, again, an inkjet might fill the bill. The problems with inkjet printers are, number one, proprietary. And you find the proprietary nature principally with the consumables, with the ink bottles themselves. Now, it is possible to refill ink cartridges, and my dad did that for a while many years ago because he just couldn't stomach having to pay almost as much as he paid for his printer to get replacement ink bottles. But refilling, I've personally found to be a messy affair that's prone to problems. I myself, for our home inkjet printer, I just buy replacement ink bottles from eBay. Now, they're not necessarily name brand, but you know what? I don't care, because for our purposes, the printout quality is just fine. In terms of connectivity, inkjet printers are pretty much standardized nowadays with USB connectivity, and most all consumer and business class inkjet printers worth their salt will have wireless capability as well, either through 802.11 traditional Wi-Fi or possibly using Bluetooth. Back in a previous module when we talked about infrared, I gave an infrared printer as an example, but you really don't find those nowadays because there's much easier and better ways to do wireless printing, namely Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Let's take a look at some of the inkjet printer internals that we need to know for the A+ exam. Inkjets are going to have a feeder mechanism, and this is a common point of maybe not mechanical failure, but where you may be called in as a technician to help teach or train end users how to properly load paper to minimize the likelihood of a jam. Most inkjet printers, in addition to having a main or primary feeder, will have other inputs, manual inputs for maybe different forms like legal paper or envelopes, or frankly, a lot of people, myself included, use inkjet printers to print return address labels and forward address labels, and I like to feed those one sheet at a time, say through a top feeder. Some inkjet printers nowadays, and the prices come down just as any technology trend will tell you, where you get features that you used to have only in higher-end business printers now are at the consumer level, the ability to duplex or print on both sides of the page. Now, the specific way that an inkjet or a laser can do duplexing depends. It depends on how robust the device is. There may be a device or a mechanism in the feeder assembly that will print one image, that is, page, and then flip it over and feed it through again. Other more higher-end printers can actually print on both sides of the page at once. That's going to be much faster. Speaking of that, you'll find ppm being a pretty popular metric for printers, especially when you're looking at business lasers that are going to be shared among users. You want to think about how long it takes for the printer to develop print jobs. So the metric you'll see in marketing materials is pages per minute, or ppm. The print head for an inkjet printer is intimately associated with the ink bottles themselves. You'll normally find that the print head assembly is directly connected to the ink bottles. The roller system obviously is the mechanical method for not only retrieving paper from the feeder, but putting it through the ink print head and then ultimately passing the finished image out of the printer into the user's hands. In fact, this is really true for inkjet and laser printers. We see a combination of rollers and belts. The belts obviously function mechanically with the rollers to turn them, and that mechanism is also referred to as the carriage system. Of course, we have the ink cartridges. These tend to be highly proprietary, unfortunately, so the bottles that fit this HP DeskJet will not fit a Canon or Epson printer. Finally, this is especially important with inkjet printers too. You'll want to periodically calibrate the system such that it's printing at the correct alignment, and you're not getting inconsistent results. The good news is that inkjet printer manufacturers almost universally put a lot of good effort into their driver and support software, such that you can perform calibrations easily, many times without having to open the printer at all. You can do it all through software.